7:30. You can start, Mataji. 7.
Start it?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tadho Jayam Mudirayet. Shrimatam Swakatha Krishna Punyashravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Hyabhadrani Vidunoti Suhritsadam Nastya Prayeshwabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavada Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam Pangum Langayate Kirim Yatkripatvamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. So today we are speaking from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8, Verse 6. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Dhautatma Purusha Krishna Padamulam na munchati Mukta Sarva Pariklesha Panthaswa Sharanam Yatha. Dhautatma Purusha Krishna Padamulam na munchati Mukta Sarva Pariklesha Panthaswa Sharanam Yatha. Dhautatma Purusha Krishna Padamulam na munchati Mukta Sarva Pariklesha Panthaswa Sharanam Yatha. Dauda Atma, whose heart has been cleansed, Purusha, the living being, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Padamulam, the shelter of the lotus feet, Na, never, Munchati, gives up, Mukta, liberated, Sarva, all, Pariklesha, of all miseries of life, Pantha, the traveler, Swasharanam, in his own abode, Yatha, as it were. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. A pure devotee of the Lord, whose heart has once been cleansed by the process of devotional service, never relinquishes the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, for they fully satisfy him, as a traveler is satisfied at home after a troubled journey. Once again, a pure devotee of the Lord, whose heart has once been cleansed by the process of devotional service, never relinquishes the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, for they fully satisfy him, as a traveler is satisfied at home after a troubled journey. One who is, this is the purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. One who is not a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord Krishna is not completely cleansed in the heart, but a perfectly cleansed person never quits the devotional service of the Lord. In discharging such devotional service, as ordered by Brahmaji to Narada, in the preaching of Srimad Bhagavatam, sometimes a representative of the Lord engaged in preaching work meets various so-called difficulties. This was exhibited by Lord Nityananda when he delivered the two fallen souls, Jagai and Madhai. And similarly, Lord Jesus Christ was crucified by the non-believers. But such difficulties are very gladly suffered by the devotees in preaching, because in such activities, although apparently very severe, the devotees of the Lord feel transcendental pleasure because the Lord is satisfied. Prahlad Maharaj suffered greatly, but still he never forgot the lotus feet of the Lord. This is because a pure devotee of the Lord is so purified in his heart that he cannot leave the shelter of Lord Krishna in any circumstances. There is no self-interest in such service. The progress of culturing knowledge by the jnanis or the bodily gymnastics by the yogis are ultimately given up by the respective performers. But a devotee of the Lord cannot give up the service of the Lord, for he is ordered by his spiritual master. Pure devotees like Narada and Nityananda Prabhu take up the order of the spiritual master as the sustenance of life. They do not mind what becomes of the future of their lives. They take the matter very seriously as the order comes from the higher authority, from the representative of the Lord, or from the Lord himself. The example set herein is very appropriate. A traveler leaves home to search for wealth in far distant places, sometimes in the forest, sometimes on the ocean, sometimes on hilltops. Certainly, there are many troubles for the traveler when he is in such unknown places, but all such troubles are at once mitigated as soon as the sense of his family affection is remembered. And as soon as he enters home, he forgets all such troubles on the way. A pure devotee of the Lord is exactly in a family tie with the Lord, and therefore he is undeterred in discharging his duty in full affectionate tie with the Lord. A pure devotee of the Lord is exactly in a family tie with the Lord, and therefore he is undeterred in discharging his duty in a full affectionate tie with the Lord. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So once again, I'll read this translation. A pure devotee of the Lord whose heart has once been cleansed by the process of devotional service never relinquishes the lotus feet of the Lord Krishna, for they fully satisfy him as a traveler is satisfied at home after a troubled journey. So Srila Prabhupada gives very precise explanation for this verse, in which he kind of concludes that about a traveler who has gone to various places in search of wealth or wealth, whatever he's looking for. He comes across all kinds of troubles, but when he thinks about his home, when he comes back home, he completely forgets all the hardships that he had to gone through. But it's amazing, amazing verses in Srimad Bhagavatam. Every verse is a jewel. But this verse, when the first thing, when you read, it makes you think about its connection with the previous verses. So here it is said, a person with the purified heart never gives up the Lord's lotus feet. A person with a purified heart. Who is that person with purified heart? And why shouldn't a person with purified heart never give up the lotus feet of the Lord? And it is so fascinating to see how the previous verses lead up to this verse. Now, in this chapter, starting from verse 7 through 23, Maharaja Parikshit is asking many, many questions. And these questions, it is about subject matters that will answer our inquiries regarding how one can accomplish the goals of either pure love for God or even mixed bhakti. And this is all exhibited in the lives of many, many surrendered devotees who relishes hearing and chanting about the glories of the Lord. Now, before coming back to this verse, I was so attracted to see how does the previous verses connect with this particular verse. So in the beginning of this chapter, the first two verses itself, there is some clear-cut indication about what are some of the glories of the Lord. So we can, in general, we can think that the Lord is full of amazing qualities, and there is every reason for any devotee not to leave his lotus feet. And yet, there are some special qualities pointed out in the previous verses. The first verse, the Lord is addressed as Agunasya. Agunasya means one who is devoid of all material qualities or guna. And that leads to the next verse where the Maharaja Parikshit is saying, please speak. This is to Sukadeva Goswami. Please speak so I can give up the body. I can give up my body, absorbing my mind devoid of material desires in Krishna. And who is that Krishna? Again, Krishna's quality is described here. Adbhuta Virasya. Adbhuta Virasya means Lord who possesses wonderful potencies. And another terminology used is Loka Sumangala. Such narrations are auspicious to the entire world. So here is Krishna, who is described as Agunasya, Adbhuta Virasya, and Loka Sumangala. These are some of the very special qualities of the Supreme Lord. Once you understand, this Supreme Being we are talking about is not, Supreme Being is not an ordinary person. He's not a person with a material body. He is totally uncontaminated. He is purely transcendental. He is beyond this material nature. He is that living entity who is purely spiritual in nature. So Maharaja Parikshit is saying that let the objects of my attachment in this world, let it all be finished. Already Maharaja Parikshit has given up his attachment to family, kingdom, possessions, everything he has given up. But he's saying now that I want to remove even the last traces of any attachment that may be remaining, so that my mind will be completely fixed on Krishna. This is the ultimate state of mind. His ultimate state of mind for completely absorbing oneself in thoughts of Krishna. And then the next verse talks about how the Lord quickly manifests in the heart of the devotee who has firm faith, who chants and who hears with serious endeavor. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, he makes it very clear that the Supreme Lord spontaneously enters the heart of a devotee. He spontaneously, willingly enters the heart of a devotee who has that detachment from worldly matters and deep attachment to the Lord. And that leads to the next one, which is the previous verse, which is verse number 5. It is stated there that Krishna purifies the heart. How does Krishna purify the heart? He enters the heart through the ears of the devotee, and he washes away all contaminations, such as lust, anger, greed. Now, these are all part of human emotions. Human beings are emotional beings. We need our emotions to experience everything in this material world, even though we all know that it is the emotions which are, as a result of the binding that we have in this material world, it is through these emotions and feelings. And so emotions and feelings are our part of our being human. That is the super speciality of being human. And yet, at some point of time, when one detaches from this material world, do we really give up the emotions and feelings? Actually not. It all become transferred, it transformed into transcendental emotions and feelings. So this is the beauty of this verse. It says, just like autumn rain cleanses large bodies of water, and it is stated that small bodies of water, where you can add chemicals to sediment the dirt, and yet when you shake the container, the dirt comes back up. Whereas autumnal rain, it completely cleanses large bodies of water, such as rivers or lakes, and it fully purifies it. The water looks crystal clear. So what is the comparison about? The comparison is comparing a devotee's position to that of any kind of yogis, Ashtanga yogis, or someone who follows Patanjali yoga system. All those things, that does not fully satisfy a human being, and that does not fully cleanse the heart. The dirt can come back. Whereas when you hear the glories of the Lord through the ears and it enters into the heart, it is a totally different cleansing. So the word used in that verse was Bhava Saroruham, the lotus of the heart. When the Lord enters the lotus of the heart, then one can question, Paramatma is situated within our heart. So what is the problem? He's already there. What is the special thing about the Lord Krishna entering through the ears into the heart? But when Krishna enters to the heart, Paramatma is quite neutral. We all have read about it. Paramatma is very impartial. He's very neutral. But when the glories of the Lord and the Lord himself enters into the heart, he attaches himself to the living entity, the jiva, and through bhava or various emotions, various relationships, it sprouts in the heart. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this bhava saroruham. It also means, what does bhava saroruham? It also means the lotus of various sentiments sprouts. The lotus of various sentiments. So it's not like we cut out the emotions of this material world and you have no more emotions. These are spiritual emotions. There is bhava. The connection with Krishna is through this bhava saroruham. And so it is really fascinating when you think about it, that it is not dryly cutting up the emotional connections in this world, but allowing those sentiments towards the Lord sprout in the heart. And that happens only when Krishna Katha enters through the ears into the heart, and the Lord's mercy overflows, so that the effort of the jiva is reciprocated by the Lord. And also that same reciprocation is happening also through the mercy of the devotees of the Lord. So jnana and yoga and all, they are relatively very, very small extent one that can penetrate the heart. Whereas the love of the Lord, the Krishna himself, he can do miracles. So there is a verse relating to this in Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 6th chapter. The verse says, Yamadhibir yogapadai kamalopa hatomuhu mukunda sevasya yadvat thadatma dhana samyati. The Atma constantly afflicted by lust and greed, again the word used is lust and greed, will not be satisfied by Ashtanga yoga or Patanjali yoga system or anything like that, and other paths as much as by direct service to Mukunda. So when the Lord enters the heart, immediately it purifies the heart. So in this verse, we coming back to this verse, the heart, the purified heart never leaves. If you have a purified heart, one will never leave the lotus feet of the Lord under any circumstances. Just like the traveler, one who has come back to the home, he completely forgets about all the hardships about the journey, and he is staying fixed on the in his home. He is completely happy and satisfied. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments about this. There is the book Madhurya Kadambini. He really describes the different stages of growth of bhakti. But it is, in addition to all of that, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur seems to indicate that the upper limit of the attachment one may obtain in this material existence may be just close to the prema stage. Any further development of that love, such as sneha or mahabhava up to that, which is exhibited by Srimati Radharani, you definitely need a spiritual body for that. And this is seen in the sadhana siddha gopis of Vrindavan. So, coming back to the fact that we are all sadhakas, is sadhana alone sufficient to reach that stage of deep attraction to Krishna? Our effort alone is not sufficient. Our acharyas tell that our effort alone is not sufficient. Krishna's mercy is essential. The Lord's mercy is essential. So when we talk from sadhana to close to the bhava stage, bhava stage is actually described as the crown jewel. The crown jewel, which great personalities like Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva alone can claim to be, in possession of. This is not an ordinary thing. So, however, this emotional attachment to Krishna is necessary, and that comes by the mercy of the Lord and his devotees. So there is a very special, there is a quote from Nectar of Devotion where a quote is taken from Padma Purana, and this talks about a girl by the name Chandrakanti. And Chandrakanti was a beautiful girl with extraordinary ability to sing and dance. And she happened to see this beautiful statue of Krishna. And she became so deeply attached to Krishna that she began to sing and dance. She remembers the mood of the gopis in Vrindavan, and she dances and dances and dances the whole night. So the translation for that verse, it says like this. This is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. A young girl who danced with joy all night invoked the mercy of the Lord. Bhava, through Raganuga Bhakti. So Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says, in this Manvantara period, the beautiful faced Chandrakanti observed continuous celibacy. She observed continuous celibacy and continuously meditated only on the form of Krishna. She sang songs about him with hairs standing on end. She developed complete affection for Krishna by hearing stories about Krishna. This is from Padma Purana. And another translation of this same verse, it says, thus determined in her mind, that damsel Chandrakanti, being eager to dance with Krishna, spent the whole night in dancing before the Murti of Sri Hari for his pleasure. And ultimately, the Lord embraces Chandrakanti. And this is in the final stage, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Madhurya Kadambini, he speaks about this experience that the devotee gets when all the senses become spiritualized, and one gets into the embrace of the Lord. So I came across a commentary by Jiva Goswami on this sloka, how Srimati Radharani's special mercy was received by this girl, this dancing girl, Chandrakanti, because Chandrakanti was having the same emotional attachment to Krishna. She was thinking about the gopis' attachment to Krishna, and she became so deeply absorbed, and it attracted the mercy of Srimati Radharani that she allowed her to experience this extraordinary ecstasy that she herself has for Krishna. And this commentary is worth hearing. Just it is so relishable. I'll just read this. So Jiva Goswami commentary on this sloka, that in the case of Chandrakanti, the very fact of her mental determination for dancing before Krishna for his pleasure is itself Raganuga Bhakti. Because at that time, the form of Krishna before her mind aroused in her heart the longing for the way of the eternal damsels of Braja, who are engaged in the dancing sport with Krishna. Thus, she attained similar feelings in her mind. She attained similar feelings like that of the gopis in her mind. Chandrakanti herself said, "Beloved Krishna is more attached to me than any other damsel, because Krishna is expressing his fondness for me and is dancing with me by embracing my neck." She was so confident. That confidence came from that her mind being fixed on the gopis of Vrindavan, and she's experiencing, she's saying, Krishna, I am the chosen one. So Sri Radha herself has graciously, she was graciously pleased with Sri Chandrakanti, both during her stages of spiritual practices. What was her spiritual practice? Her spiritual practice was dancing and singing before Krishna. She was spontaneously absorbed in that, in the mood of gopis. And even in her sadhana stage, it attracted the mercy of Srimati Radharani. She was so pleased. What happened? So Sri Radha himself was graciously pleased with Chandrakanti, both during her stages of spiritual practices as well her state of final attainment of Krishna, where she felt Krishna's arms were around her neck. Thus Sri Radha accepted Chandrakanti as her own Sakhi and made all Chandrakanti's feelings towards Krishna identical with her own feelings of bhava towards Krishna. It is for this reason that in some places in the scriptures, Chandrakanti has been identified with Sri Radha. So it is the mercy of Srimati Radharani. It is this wonderful, amazing dancing girl's deep attachment to the love of the gopis of Vrindavan that made her come to that stage of spontaneity, which attracted the attention of Srimati Radhika, which allowed her to experience this love. So now I will bring your attention to the progression of bhakti described in Srimad Bhagavatam. We all know these verses, 1.2.16 to 21. So these verses can be broken down where every verse represents certain stage of the growth of bhakti. For example, Sususho said Shraddha. This particular verse indicates the first 5 steps. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is explaining Satam Kripa, Mahat Seva, Shraddha, Gurupada Ashraya, and Bhajana Spriha. Bhajana Spriha means eagerness to worship. Then comes the next verse, verse number 18, Nastya Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya verse. It represents bhakti, anarthopagamam, and tatha nishta, steadiness. That is where it ends. Now comes the next verse, which is the 19th verse. And that verse, as all of you know, it is Tada Rajas Tamo Bhava kamalabhadayascha ye cheta etair anavriddhim stitham sattve prasidhati. So in this verse, this is the description of the stage of ruchi and asakti. Ruchi and asakti. This is where this purity of heart comes in. And that is described in the 11th canto verse. Now, before we go there, so the translation of this Tada Rajas Tamo Bhava verse, as soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering. Remember, we started with that. Lust, desire, and hankering, any traces of that is washed away by devotion to Krishna. When the glories of Krishna is heard through the attentive ears and it enters into the heart, the Lord helps to wash these contaminations, even the traces of contaminations, just as the autumnal rain cleanses large bodies of water. And so when one comes to that stage where all these material desires are destroyed, the heart reaches the state of that Shuddha Sattva. So at that time, Prabhupada writes, the heart is qualified to receive the direct audience of the Lord. So modes of nature may still be operating, but but still the intensity of it is less. So Prabhupada explains in Srimad Bhagavatam, the soul's activity becomes adulterated in contact with matter, and as such, the diseased activities are expressed in the form of lust, desire, hankering, inactivity, foolishness, and sleep. The effect of devotional service becomes manifest by complete elimination of these effects of passion and ignorance. The devotee is fixed at once in the mode of goodness. The devotee is fixed at once in the mode of goodness, and he makes further progress to rise to the position of Vasudeva, or the state of unmixed sattva or Shuddha Sattva. Only in this Shuddha Sattva state can one always see Krishna eye to eye by the pure affection of the Lord. So this purity is described in the 11th canto, 2nd chapter. This verse says that Tribhuvana vibhava hetavepya akunda smritir achitatma suradibhir vimibhyat na chaladi bhagavat padaravindai tava nimishardham apiyasa vaishnavarghya. It says, na chaladi bhagavat padaravindal tava nimishardham apiyaha vaishnavarghya. So what does it mean? That describes the purity of love of advanced devotees. What is the meaning of this verse? The lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are sought even by the greatest of demigods, such as Brahma and Shiva, who have all accepted the Supreme Personality of Godhead as their life and soul. A pure devotee of the Lord can never forget these lotus feet. In any circumstance, he will not give up his shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, even for a single moment. Indeed, not even for half a moment, even in exchange for the benediction of ruling and enjoying the opulence of the entire universe. Such a devotee of the Lord is to be considered the best of the Vaishnavas. So let all troubles in the world come in his way. Such a devotee will never, ever, ever leave the lotus feet of the Lord. And that is what is aspired by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. So that brings me back to the beginning. Who is that Supreme Lord to whom we are so attracted? He is so super special. All the qualities, once again, I read from the previous verses. In addition to that, there are great saintly devotees who have had vision or who have seen the Lord. And this inspires me so much. Example is like Vilwamangala Thakur. We all know Vilwamangala Thakur lived very close to our lifetime. And there is another personality called Melpathur who wrote Narayaniyam. He had the vision of the Lord at the end of his composition. After he finished composing Narayaniyam, the last chapter describes his vision of the Lord. There is even a verse where he explains that those who are seeking after, those who are following the path of yoga, those who are following other type of meditations, the Lord is reciprocating with them. But for a devotee, the Lord's affection is so very special. So there is this verse describing that Krishna, and I am always so attracted towards the translation made by Dravida Dhasa Prabhu. So I will share with you two verses from Vilwamangala Thakur's writing. The first one, it describes about Krishna, and it is such an amazing translation that it is wonderful for us to remember that living entity, that person. He is not ordinary. He's transcendental. He's that amazing cowherd boy who has certain special qualities. It helps you to feel so attracted towards Krishna. And so that's why I want to read this verse to you. It says, Asti swastaruni karagra vigalat kalpa prasuna plutam vastu prastuda venunadalahari nirvana niryakulam shrishta shrishta niruddhani vivilasat gopi sahasravritam hastanyastanatapavargam akilodharam kishorakriti Asti swastaruni karagra vigalat kalpa prasuna plutam vastu prastuda venunadalahari nirvana nirvyakulam shrasta shrasta niruddhani vivilasat gopi sahasravritam hastanyastranatapavargamakhilodharam kishorakriti. So the translation Dravida Das Prabhu says is really touches your heart. He begins like this. There is an entity. Just when you hear, there is an entity. This is not an ordinary person. There is an entity who has the appearance of an adolescent boy. There is an entity who has the appearance of an adolescent boy and who is being inundated with the desire tree flowers, that is the kalpavriksha flowers, falling from the fingertips of the damsels of heaven. When we do pushpabhishek, we just put a ton of flower petals on our deities. Here is a desire tree, which is the kalpavriksha tree flower petals. The heavenly ladies are putting that onto that beautiful Lord Krishna. It's coming from their fingertips. That boy is completely carefree. He's situated in transcendental beatitude. That boy is completely carefree and he's situated in transcendental beatitude. When does he do that? When he sends forth waves of the sounds from his famed flute. He is encircled by thousands of effulgent milkmaids who are feeling extreme pleasure at hearing the sound of the flute. That adolescent boy, the pinnacle of munificence, only Dravida Das Prabhu can do that. That adolescent boy, the pinnacle of munificence, places liberation from birth and death into the hands of his surrendered devotees. So that is the Krishna. And that is the Krishna Vilwamangala Thakur saw, a blue effulgence. He is a transcendental, he has the appearance of an adolescent boy, and he is constantly playing on his flute. And that attracts the heart of the damsels of Braja, that they completely forgets everything. They are in that mood. And this is what is experienced by this personality, Chandrakanti, quoted from Padma Purana. So this now what I read is from Vidyamangala Thakur, who saw Krishna with his own eyes. Same thing with this Melpatur also. He saw Krishna with his eyes. Lord gave them the transcendental or the spiritual vision by which they could see and experience Krishna. Where else do we need to look for evidence, or this itself tells us that who is the Lord and why should we get so attracted towards him? We never leave his lotus feet under any circumstance. So one more verse from Vidyamangala Thakur, he glorifies Krishna like this. He sings, Jaya 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 Deva 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 Tribhuvana Mangala Divya Namadeya Jaya 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 Deva Krishna Deva Sravana Mano Nayanamritavatara Jaya 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 Deva 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 Tribhuvana Mangala Divya Namadeya Jaya 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 Deva Krishna Deva Shravana Mano Nayanamritavatara. All glories, all glories, all glories, O Lord, whose holy name is auspicious for all three worlds. All glories, all glories, all glories to you, Lord Krishna. You are the incarnation who are nectar for the ear, mind, and the eyes. You are the incarnation who are the nectar for the ears. You are the nectar for the mind. You are the nectar for the eyes. And you are the only one who can remove the contaminations of my heart. You are the only one, and you can do that. And therefore, I will never leave your lotus feet, no matter if the whole world comes down, upside down. Everything, all my material attachments, all my connections with family, friends, anything in this material world, the last trace of it, only that Supreme Lord can break. Nobody else can do that. So with that, I offer my humble obeisances to all of you. So if anyone would like to add some comments or your realizations, if you have the time, please feel free to do so. I have gone above my time. My apologies. Hare Krishna. Okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru and Gauranga. Mataji, thank you for such a wonderful, class in the morning. We always look forward for your class, and it inspires me so much. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All the devotees here are very absorbed in studying Srimad Bhagavatam and relishing it. So I should thank Lakshmi Kant Prabhu for keeping Bhagavatam class on in the morning. And I can see a large number of devotees are attending these days regularly. And this is what our goal was. And this is what we should continue doing. And so I thank him. I thank all of you who participate. Thank you very, very much.
Hare Krishna Mataji. I wanted to give one comment or question. You were mentioning about Champakalata, who got attracted. Chandrakanti.
Yeah.
Yes, who was attracted to Krishna's deity. And I was thinking that she had never seen something so beautiful. And I was thinking that many saints are like that, where they become very attracted to the deity of Krishna, or just somehow as children to something about Krishna. And that attraction that they feel upon seeing the deity is obviously in this case, but even in general, it's like a spiritual attraction coming from a past life that gets awakened, because the deity is attractive. But why to these people, specifically, they become so attracted all of a sudden? They're just like normal children. Other children also are attracted, but then they forget, and then they go on their kind of normal lives. But their attraction must be coming from a past. It's a spiritual attraction that becomes awakened. Is that right?
I mean, her background, nothing is given in the Nectar of Devotion. It's taken from Padma Purana, and Jiva Goswami's commentary says that she was so absorbed. She saw this statue of Krishna. It didn't even say deity. I mean, it must have been a beautiful, like we hear about Nava Vrindavan, like in the description of where Srimati Radharani becomes a Satyabhama, and she sees that crystal, that sapphire deity form of Krishna in a garden, and she thinks this is Krishna. He's looking. He has his sidelong glance. She feels, is this real? Is this a person? Is this a statue? Is the statue moving? And eventually Krishna replaces the statue, and he stands there and he looks at her, and she's like, is the statue really live? And so the background is given about her, except the fact that she danced throughout the night. She just sang and danced. It was such a spontaneous state. I'm sure she must have, because it takes of course, all of us know this cultivation that we talk about, devotional cultivation. It is lifetimes. Takes lifetimes to come to that stage, lifetimes of cultivation. And that too, with so much of genuine love. It's not like I have 20 minutes time, I will read a book, I will dance, I will do this, that. It doesn't come like that at all. The lifetimes of cultivation means with undeviated attention. One's mind is so absorbed. You come to that stage. And then, I am sure she must have something like that. Otherwise, how can she get like, as soon as she saw this form of Krishna, she started dancing, and there was no stopping her. She was non-stop. She was dancing until daybreak, and in the end, Krishna's reciprocation. So that was my feeling reading about that. But also I was, when I was reading this commentaries and section about dealing with this, I was seeing that our effort on one side, as we always know, and there is Krishna's, the Lord's reciprocation is the ultimate thing. And then again, it does not happen without a devotee's mercy. And so devotee's mercy is so essential. One cannot make any progress without the mercy of the devotee who is carrying that love for Krishna in their heart. And the sooner we realize, and sooner we apply in service to the devotees, sooner we realize that devotees are so important in our life, in Vaishnava dealings, how we deal with each other, and that is pleasing to Krishna, how we deal with each other, how we treat the devotees in our life. Never underestimate the devotees in our life. That was, that theme comes back again and again and again. Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah.
Yes, Mathaji, and thank you for clarifying that this is not just one lifetime, but many lifetimes.
Oh, millions of lifetimes. And it is continuous cultivation, continuous nurturing. Yes. I think, is there anything else, Lingaraj Prabhu, or what we are believing?
Hey Krishna, Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji. Full class. I had a question as far as our daily practices of bhakti go, and you mentioned about the different stages
Yeah.
of bhakti. When you feel like, one question is, how do you analyze yourself? Two, when you feel stagnant, like, okay, you're not going anywhere beyond this, and then how do you improve on it? How do you address that problem?
I think everybody has got their own, any one of us who have, I mean, I may not be giving the complete answer, but any one of us, let us take it in a very practical way. Any one of us who have come to this process of Krishna consciousness, one thing is for sure, that we all have that goal of pleasing Guru and Krishna. We do have. And so if it is not, why are we here in ISKCON? Why are we following the guidance coming from our disciplic succession? Why are we following the rules and regulations? We are all voluntarily, we are here because we all have that one particular goal. And so we need to take the guidance coming from our Guru Parampara. And if we feel, we are not nurtured, we need to look within ourselves and see where am I, what is lacking. And one can always seek the guidance of devotees who are fixed in their devotional practice. And those who are fixed in devotional practice, they will be a source of inspiration. They will be able to share with you. They will be able to tell you, how to overcome those roadblocks. Roadblocks comes in the way of everyone, but also, every obstacle in one's life should ultimately bring one closer towards Krishna. The more the obstacles, the more closer one should get to. One should get closer to Krishna. So if it is not happening and one is feeling like a totally disrupted, not able to move left, right, or center, that's when you seek the guidance. And then it is then our own endeavor. There is nobody else can. We have to ply our own plane. Prabhupada said that, somebody else cannot do it for us. It is an individual effort. But through the mercy of devotees, taking the mercy of the devotees, taking the mercy of Krishna, and never forgetting, everything else that we do, we get so absorbed in our day-to-day problems of life. That's all secondary. One has to move it aside. Maharaja Parikshit himself said in that previous verse that let all my even last trace of my attachment to everything that is material, let it be removed so that I can completely attach myself to you, my Lord. And then, the Lord attracts that living entity from within the heart. If it is not happening, there is something we have to nurture, we have to cultivate. As I mentioned, my understanding is it is lifetimes of cultivation. Lifetimes of cultivation. But there is nothing to feel dejected about it, because the process of cultivation itself is so enjoyable. The process of cultivation is so enjoyable. There is nothing material in this world can satisfy us than this practice. The practice gives us so much of happiness. So we need not worry, okay, it takes lifetimes. Now I don't even know which lifetime I am in and how many more I have to go. At this moment of practice, one must feel happy. At this moment, the moment you take that chanting bead in your hand, you should feel completely happy and satisfied. If that's not the state of mind, we need to work. We need to really consciously work. This is a conscious practice. It's not a mechanical practice. I would request Gopal Hari Prabhu to comment if you can guide. Since Gopal Hari Prabhu is here.
Don't have really anything more to add. Yeah, it's just it's also a gradual process, isn't it? It's just day by day we are developing and improving, and we sometimes feel disheartened because the results don't come so quickly. But the main thing is that we're progressing and we're advancing.
Yeah, that advancement, I always feel it comes by conscious practice also, because we can go through life like mechanically, and mechanically doing anything has got its limited benefits. But consciously,
Yes.
yeah, I think we are almost 8:30. I'm so sorry. Lakshmi Kanda Prabhu and the devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank